we officially start the meeting at 7:38. We are allowed under Massachusetts law to meet in accordance with open meeting laws by video. The one requirement is we need to do roll call vote if we're going to take a vote. I don't think we necessarily have anything to vote on today, but we'll see how the conversation goes. In the meantime, we have an agenda. And why don't we start with introductions of everybody who's on the call. We have some guests as well as some familiar faces, and we'll just go around. So I'm Tanya Bodell. I'm the chair of the Alternative Energy Committee, and my day job is being a consultant in the energy and environmental space.
I'm Chris Althieson, member of the committee, and retired for about a year now from Rockland Trust.
I'm Steve Winter, member of the committee. Been retired for a long time.
Debbie Cook, member of the committee.
I'm Barbara Russell. I'm a member of the committee, and I have a business in Boston, and I'm a professor at UMass Lowell.
My name is Montana Castle. I am the town liaison for Alternative Energy Committee, and I'm Cohasset's sustainability planner and grant coordinator.
I'm Fran Collins. I'm a liaison for the advisory committee. I'm too young to retire yet. I still teach at Mass Maritime Academy a couple days a week.
And I'm Doran Hole. I'm just, I guess, a Cohasset resident, relatively new Cohasset resident, heavy interest in the space, chief financial officer at Amoresco, which is an energy efficiency and renewable energy contractor, and have been kind of getting involved in these meetings just over the past, call it 6 to 8 months or so. Thank you for having me.
Carol and Jack.
I'm Carol Steinfeld. I'm a relatively new resident of Cohasset. I just moved back here with my husband from California. And I'm just here to be an attendee. I'm a communications specialist of sorts, and I work in the ecological wastewater recycling sector. And I've belonged to water-related committees. And when I lived in New Bedford, I co-founded a mayor sustainability task force.
Great. Welcome. And Jack, did you introduce yourself?
No, I'm Jack Buckley. I'm from the with the Cohasset Center for Student Coastal Research, and a retired Cohasset teacher.
Great, thanks. And we'll hear more from Taylor in a moment. But before we do that, welcome everybody. Is there anybody who didn't get a chance to introduce themselves? Okay, so you'll find that this is a very exciting, fun, effective committee. We like to have meeting style. So we promoted everybody, and usually we don't have so many guests. So I'm very excited that we do. But what we'll normally do is have a conversation. We'll follow the agenda, and then at the end, we'll ask the guests if they have any comments after the committee has had a chance to comment. So feel free to participate, but we're glad you're here. And if there's something at the end, especially that we weren't able to put onto the agenda that you'd like to raise, we definitely can raise it in accordance with open meeting laws. Now, before we move on to the next thing, what I'd like to do is have a vote on the meeting minutes from December. Thank you to Martha, and if Debbie helped, Debbie, but they are excellent meeting minutes. I'll just give a moment for people to pull those up. And I know, Doran, you said your last name is not correct, so we'll fix that. And are there any other corrections or edits?
I had just a question.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder if you could explain the statement that Scituate has 100% renewable from wind and solar. Exactly what does that mean? Are we talking about just the municipal consumption covered by wind and solar generated in Situate, or what?
Yes, that's the municipal consumption.
Okay. And
So
is the municipality buying and retiring the RECs for that generation in town?
I do not know.
Okay, because if they don't, they can't really claim that power, but okay.
While you're all looking at your minutes, I have a question about the aggregation. When does this iteration of the transmission cost change? Or when can it be changed again?
Yeah, and so it's the energy cost, the transmission and the distribution is a pass through, and that I believe is going to expire this October.
Good, thank you. I've had a lot of questions, and I thought it was December, but I wasn't sure. October, that's good.
And before that, they're going to, I think, try to put it out to bid again. So hopefully we'll get a good price and we can roll it over before the winter.
Thank you.
Excuse me. All right. Hopefully people have had a moment to review the meeting minutes. And if there are any other changes, we would do that now. I think clarification on the statement that Steve pointed out. And we can even make a note about the RECs, not knowing whether or not they're retired. I just know that they are contracted for the energy. And then the correction of Doran's last name. And subject to those corrections, I would entertain a motion to approve the meeting minutes.
I'll move them.
Second.
All right. Thank you, Chris. And is that a Steve? Steve's doing the second?
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Steve. So motion second, any discussion? All right, so this is an example where we need to go around and do a roll call vote. So I'll start Tanya Bodell. This is to approve the meeting minutes. Tanya Bodell, aye.
Steve
Salvation,
Wonderful.
aye.
Debbie Cook, aye.
Barbara Russell, aye.
And I think that is the committee. So we have five approvals, no abstentions, no disapprovals. So the meeting minutes from December pass. I'll make the corrections, finalize it, and then send it for posting. And I do want to note, I'm very proud of this committee and our secretaries for keeping up. We are one of the few committees in town that actually has our meeting minutes posted promptly with no lag. And that decreases the stress on all of us, especially me. So thank you. And Montana, who would be delegated that stress. So thank you, everybody, for approving those. So we have Taylor Clark here on our agenda. We don't have her listed, but we had talked last meeting about having her give a quick overview of her study that she did. This was an analysis of a potential microgrid for the potential new town hall. What I'm going to do, because I didn't know until basically yesterday whether or not Taylor would be able to present, I'm going to have her do a quick presentation on her findings, and then we can ask any questions and move on to the rest of the agenda. So Taylor, welcome back. Taylor, just say something because I can't hear you right now.
He's muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Weird. Okay, sorry about that.
No,
Could y'all
that's all right.
whenever I had it pulled up?
I could see it. Now we can see it. Yes.
Perfect. So I'm gonna give a little background on me. So yes, I just finished the program that Montana is starting at Harvard Extension School completed my master's in sustainability. And for the final capstone project or thesis project, I did the One Pleasant Street microgrid study for the Alternative Energy Committee. And town of Cohasset, this background you all already know, so I'll go ahead and just skip over that one. This project looked at the One Pleasant Street microgrid. So the new town hall was proposed to be at One Pleasant Street, with the first floor for offices, the second two for affordable housing units. So this looked into a microgrid at that facility with a solar array on the roof, backup battery for a 2.5-day outage, along with the microgrid controller equipment, and then some level 2 EV charging stations for the parking lot. So some of the opportunities for this project, building resiliency for the town of Cohasset. Since Cohasset is located at the end of the transmission line, the town is subject to outages ranging from a few hours up to 5 days. Some of the benefits of this would be to provide reliable, safe, clean living conditions for senior citizens and or low-income families, depending on how the affordable housing is utilized, as well as emissions reduction. So in line with the Alternative Energy Committee goals to continue to transition to renewable, low-emission energy solutions for the town. And then some of the risks associated with this project. There's some concerns with technology limitations. I had a lot of trouble finding companies that were able to look at solar installation as well as the microgrid components. So from that, I've learned it's best to stay vendor agnostic whenever looking into different parts of the system, to ensure that everything can communicate easily with each other, and it all kind of works together as best way possible. The other concern is variable cost. As you are all probably aware, the solar and microgrid systems can have pretty significant price fluctuations from month to month, year to year, and it can take a good amount of time before grants are approved and completed. And then by the time the installation may be to occur, prices could have changed, resulting in some changes to the ability for whether or not it's cheaper, more expensive. You may not be able to get everything you'd originally intended for some of the grant money. So just going over the recommendations. So there is the microgrid, the solar array for the rooftop, as well as carport structures, and then some net zero initiatives for the building so that the building could eventually be, net zero. And then any additional future locations for microgrid networks.
And let me just jump in, because for those in the audience, Taylor started this study when nobody really knew about the proposal for One Pleasant Street. I guess it had been in some of the discussions at some of the committees. So she came in around August, September. This was designed, and she completed it as part of her thesis in December. Of course, in the interim, the town meeting voted to put it on the ballot, and the town voted by 10 votes not to proceed with this. That said, we think that this is still a good piece of work that is probably going to resurrect itself. I don't think One Pleasant is truly over, and the findings from this could be applied to other buildings.
Yeah, for
Okay,
sure.
sorry. Thanks, Taylor.
Yeah, of course. So this is just a brief overview of a microgrid system and some of the associated equipment. So for this system in particular, there would be the solar power generation, a controller, battery storage on site, and then the Pleasant Street facility that is inside those dotted lines. So that's your microgrid. And then the controller ties to the national grid so that it can incorporate power as needed, either for selling or utilization to charge batteries. Just depends on what the system designates as the best use of power. So here is a design for the solar array. And due to the building orientation, only proposed the southwest side, southwest facing side of One Pleasant Street, and then also utilizing the awning that goes over the front part of the building as well. And with the measurements that I got from the blueprints and everything, figured about 81 365 watt panels with a 29 kilowatt capacity. Now, the big winner here is the installation of carports and utilizing that space for solar arrays, since the image shown here for One Pleasant Street is not the updated roof design. So the current roof design has a lot more gables and uneven surfaces than the one you see in the picture. But being able to add in, so the top left area is for residential parking, which would bring in a huge solar panel installation there, and essentially really bring up the capacity for the microgrid and for the building. And the good thing about these is with these carport solar arrays, you can do them one at a time. You can kind of see what funding you have, what you can install, time into the grid, and then you can kind of just add it as you go. And when you get money or when you get initiatives that can really focus on these activities. And so then the customer parking for those utilizing One Pleasant Street. And then there's that last bottom section which is existing public parking for the town of Cohasset. So again, just covering an existing public parking lot could be a great option for solar power in the town, and bring in 78 kilowatts with just that single installation. So some of the other initiatives for the building, installing HVAC heat pumps, high energy or energy efficient appliances, LED lighting, low flow water appliances, and resident education. So each of these has ease of implementation, the cost, and the emission reduction potential. And from what I gathered with the building inspector, they already are sizing a heat pump for the first floor. So the additional part that would need to be done would be getting heat pumps in the residences as well, because that would really bring down the energy pull on the building, utilizing the heat pumps instead of conventional gas heating or what may be in that building set up for. And then the resident education is just ensuring that those living in the building are aware of how the microgrid works, how to best utilize and operate efficiently with their energy use, water use, all these types of things. Some of those simple instances of hand washing versus a dishwasher, pre-washing your dishes, all those types of things can really roll into this resident education that can be an opportunity to really help the residents learn more sustainable practices. And so here is a map of Cohasset, and what I did was outline 2 additional locations where microgrids could be utilized. So the Cohasset schools, where Deer Hill Elementary and Osgood Elementary are located, would be a great opportunity to utilize the roof structure for solar panels, including a battery backup system, and could serve as an emergency hub. And then the second location is the fire station for the Cohasset Housing Authority, and the solar array, battery backup system, and then a new heat pump system for the fire station, and it being the emergency command center. Other than that, I know the high school, we had discussed looking at the high school, but I believe the current roof needs replacing, and so they're not too keen on putting any kind of solar panels on that. But these are 2 other locations that would be great opportunities for microgrid networks for the town. So a little overview on the environmental impact, broke this down into the equivalent number of cars off the road for a year. So the roof, 2.3 cars, solar array for resident parking, customer parking, and public parking have a little bit more of an impact, with the resident parking again being the biggest impact for environmental benefit with that solar generation. And then the additional Pleasant Street energy initiatives, the low flow appliances, the heat pumps, those types of things would also bring in quite a bit of benefit as well. Being able to determine whether or not the heat pump would have, I think the number for the one Pleasant Street energy initiative are very, very conservative. I think the actual impact would be much greater than what's shown here. And then a little bit on the social impact. So being able to have clean energy in these low-income housing areas, clean, healthy places to live, better indoor air quality, resulting in fewer ER visits with asthma and associated illnesses, and then energy savings. The money savings associated with ensuring those energy efficient appliances, LED lights are good for the resident as well as the landlord. And then climate change resilience, I think, is a really big one for the town of Cohasset, because this will give Cohasset, again, more tools to be prepared against power outages, increased storm frequencies with increased severity and damages. One thing that I found, typically when low income families are having to evacuate or move from certain areas in the event of an emergency, they often spend their annual salary in order to find temporary housing or a location for their family. So it can be extremely expensive and catastrophic for the family to have to relocate. And this microgrid would enable those individuals to stay home and stay safe when severe weather incidences hit or power outages occur. So here I've listed the federal grants which could be applicable for this initiative and the different areas. And all of this is a little bit more in detail in the actual report. But these are all varying dates where things are due, and the ability for the town to come in and get some of those federal grants that are available. This one is for state grants. So even just the smart metering, or the smart and the net metering programs, I'm sure you're all very aware of those, but it is, again, money benefit for the microgrid. And then Empower Massachusetts, infrastructure, green communities. And again, some of these are applicable because of the low income housing component, which other projects for the Alternative Energy Committee may not be available for in other cases. And then just bonds and tax credits. Again, a low income credit here. And the Home Energy Assistance Program, and then other just green bonds, municipal bonds available for the project. And so for implementation plan, obviously this has changed a bit since the town hall was not approved. But again, I think it's still great information for whoever purchases the building or whatever may happen with the building, but working through, some of the feasibility studies, getting those quotes for a solar installation, as well as the heat pump design, which some of them are already in the works. And then through March, July, September, again, just working through setup and installation. Again, not necessarily pertinent anymore, but with future initiatives, anyways, with the public parking specifically, can still be a go-do just because it is already town owned. And then the ability to design, scope, and implement additional microgrid networks in the community, which will then again continue to increase resilience for the town and provide safe emergency locations for the residents during outages. All right, and that is everything. Hopefully I kept it to 15 minutes. I don't know.
Well, that was
Didn't
great.
check the time.
Taylor, I'm sure somewhere is your whole report. Is that posted on our site, Tanya, or is that
It is
available to us?
not, and I see Fran, your hand is up, so we'll come to you in a moment. So Taylor, how do we distribute this great work that you did more? Would you like us to post it on our website? Would you like us to reach out to some other committees who, we're looking at this closely? Would you like us to introduce you to the owner of the building? What would be helpful for you?
I mean, whatever you all think would be a good option. I mean, the information is yours to do with what you please at this point. So this is as much, if not more, your report now than it is mine. But obviously, I'm available for questions or anything as the process moves forward. And yeah,
Okay, well, we do have a microgrid section on our webpage, and it includes tours of different microgrids that we did during 2020 and 2021. So that might be a perfect place to put it and just have it there, because I like how you've identified other places and talked about the benefits of microgrids for this town.
Yeah.
Definitely has general applicability.
Yeah, for sure.
Fran.
Hi. That's a very nice presentation that you really dotted the I's and crossed the T's. I have a questions with the 300 kW installation. How much space do you need for a battery bank for 2.5 day service to provide enough storage capacity for 2.5 day outage? And would that have to be put in a separate building from the main building itself because of any fire hazards or anything like that?
So I did not place the battery system. I utilized some previous studies that were done to determine the size. But as far as where it would be placed, judging by how the building layout was already shown for the town hall, it would probably have to be outside for some system, unless somebody's willing to give up some of that office space to provide a location for that battery system. There is the option that one of the residential units, they were going to use the kitchen for the town hall staff. So there may be space there as well, but again, you'll need additional firewalls and fireproofing for those batteries to be stored there.
Yeah.
What kind of batteries would you be using?
I think what she identified, and I helped her with the sizing based on studies that had been done for Elm Street and that we had done as part of the microgrid study for the schools. And so just doing a pro rata, I think she's proposing a 0.75 megawatt 2-hour battery. And I can pull up a picture. I don't know if Doran's doing the same thing, searching for a picture, but if Doran has a picture, he can pull it up.
I don't have any handy, but they are, they're like mini shipping containers. Fran, is what they look like, and they sit on a pad outside, much like an oversized pad that you might see your, like backup generator sitting on. Footprint for 750 is not huge. So it would probably be something that they could find a good spot just in the corner of the parking lot or something, subject to clearance. But they are designed to have the appropriate, fire suppression and cooling systems installed in a self-contained unit. And I would probably not recommend anything being inside the building. That's my question. Thank you. That's what I was getting at. That's what I was hoping you'd say. Thank you.
Yeah, they're like about, I think, 10 by 40 is a 1 megawatt, maybe 15 by 40 by 10 feet high. And we have some images from when we put together the microgrid proposal, but they're like storage containers, and they would not be inside. That size would not be inside.
You.
And that, for the expected load of that building, would last 2.5, with a heat pump, would last 2.5 days in the winter and potentially more than 5 to 6 days in the summer. Any other questions for Taylor?
Very nice presentation.
Very nice, Taylor. Very nice work. I can't believe this is something that a student has done. I mean, this is very, very professional and very impressive. And we will definitely put it up in our microgrid corner of our website because I think it's very useful. And as I said, these building ideas tend to resurrect themselves. And I think the Affordable Housing Trust has not yet given up on the idea, because it gives them some nice additions to their portfolio if they can make it happen. So I do not think that this is a lost effort. I think it actually is very impressive and very useful and very informative.
Awesome.
So,
Yeah, thank y'all so much for your support and guidance through the whole process as well.
So
No
can I just
problem.
ask, I assume they're all apprised of your study, right? Everybody? So, I mean, it seems like great ammunition for, resurrecting this idea. But I just want to know if your study has or will go to these people to use for ammunition, other committees.
I don't think they are aware of it, Debbie. I think what we wanted to do was hear it first. Remember, Taylor just finished it in December as part of her thesis. So what we can do is post it, and then I can send that link to the different committees who had looked at it and say, you may remember, Taylor Clark looked at this in the microgrid opportunities and resiliency, and we just want to let you know, here's her report, here's her presentation. Because for those of you who don't know, and I think the committee received the full packet, there's a very detailed report that Taylor did as well.
But is there a place for us to find, I'm sorry to interrupt, the original impetus for creating a second town hall? Because I am a newbie here and I'm not aware of if there's a repository of the back and forth with the select committee that initiated it and voted
So
on
the
it.
minutes, so it actually goes way back. Fran can even say how far back it goes, but replacing the town hall has been discussed almost since the time it was built in 1985. So that addition to the town hall itself, the theater or historical building, that has been talked about with respect to renovation, but the actual administrative building, almost from the time it was first built, they started immediately talking about what they were going to do to it. And then it's now run its course. It's 50 years old and there's a lot of issues with it. So they've been talking about replacing the town hall or renovating the town hall for, I don't know, who wants to say 10 years?
About 6 or 7 years, we've been really hard at it. We've had 2 proposals. Both of them were shot down. The most recent one here back in December. The issue is that the annex, which we call the town hall, where most of the town offices now, which is attached to the old town hall building, was poorly designed and it was poorly constructed and it wasn't maintained. So it's in very bad shape. And it doesn't lend itself to much modifications without basically tearing it down and starting all over again. So we went down that road, and it was not well received by the voters in the town because of the costs. And of course, the costs have only gone up exponentially at this point from the last iteration back around 2017, I think it was. We could have been in there for about $12 million. The last one, this last year, we came up to 25 million just in that short period of time. So this new building across the tracks from the Arts Center, which used to be the Cohasset Lumberyard way back, was under construction and available, and it was offered to the town as a potential town hall. And the interesting thing about was it had adequate square footage, to have all of our offices on one floor, and it had the bonus of having 2 floors of apartments, 14 apartment units on the 2nd and 3rd floor. It was still downtown. It was still accessible. There was plenty of parking. But once again, people, as one of our wise people in the town spoke at town meeting, he says everybody wants to have the town hall on the common, but nobody wants to pay for it. So that's where we are right now. We're back to square one again. We still have an inadequate town office building.
And so the AEC grabbed the opportunity to highlight how it could be a sustainable, it could actually contribute to the grid, and it's this model of sustainability. Is that why the AEC got a hold of it?
We make the magic happen. So
I know that.
Taylor will stipulate to that. Taylor reached out about doing a project. I think he reached out. I think she was trying to figure out who to reach out to, and we grabbed it and said, we can help you identify. We originally were looking at the Osgood Deer Hill School, which is emergency center, because I've been eyeing that as a microgrid for a while, and it's part of a bigger microgrid opportunity. And the schools were not interested. And so then I asked Michelle if she had some thoughts, and my husband's on the Affordable Housing Trust, and he had some thoughts, and that's why we identified. I think at that point Taylor was interested in looking at the design of a microgrid versus just a solar energy array, and so we talked to her and identified the site for her to do the study. And because it's very much in our bailiwick, we were the advisory committee.
Let me just jump in one more. The interesting comment I didn't make was this building was walk in, turn the lights on for $10 million, all up to speed, everything up to code, everything fully sprinkled. It was an incredible opportunity, but 10 people decided that it wasn't a good one, and so we lost it again.
Did they have an RFP? Did they ever, was there an RFP that the town had proposed?
No, this was offered to the town. If we had had to build this ourselves, we would have been up in the $25-30 million range again, maybe 35 or more, because of prevailing wage and the state requirements for buildings. This was an incredible opportunity for $1 million.
No, but where I was going was has someone decided that we need a new town hall? Is it?
Yes.
Yeah, and so right, so but there's no RFP. They've never formalized their search or
Sure we did. Absolutely.
Would dimension the price, the costs, right?
Absolutely, we've done RFPs, and we've hired
previous iterations were
contractors. We've done the whole thing, but it just has not. The ultimate arbiter is the town meeting, and who votes yes and who votes no. And
so I know this isn't the time or place to, but is there a chance for another bite at the apple? I'm hearing that there might be.
I don't know.
And I mean, it seems to me that the problem was there was no time to educate people about this. I mean, literally, what did we have? Like a month? Something like that. It was just so fast. And so there were a lot of people that, that just threw out things that weren't factual. And I think people just really didn't understand. So I'm thinking, this could be part of the arsenal of ideas to, to make an argument to look at it again, since the vote was so close.
But why don't we do this? Why don't we put on Montana's action items, an inquiry to Michelle to get an update on where this stands and whether the owner has moved on. And regardless, we're going to put the study up on our microgrid section and send it out to the different committees. And then we maybe with that email that sends it out, we'll give an update and say, look, we know the owner has moved on, or we think that the owner still might be interested. You may have moved on, but just so you know, the study was done in conjunction with the timing, and it offers a lot of opportunity from a sustainability, reliability, resiliency perspective, and a lot of this could pay for itself.
Right. And when you compare it to what they tried to do with the town hall on the renewable side, I mean, it was pretty much impossible with roof lines and everything else. I mean, that was not anything you could retrofit with renewables. So, that's a huge, huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think just to put this to bed for a little bit, I think that the owner of One Pleasant Street has got a big construction mortgage. And he's not gonna wait around for us to make up our mind to dilly-dally back and forth, whether we may want it or we may not want it. So I think he's gonna move forward and try and get rid of it as quickly as he can. That's his best financial interest. If we're able to if he has bad luck and can't do it, we can still be a player in that thing, that's fine. But at this point, I wouldn't hold my breath.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Taylor, thank you. And we appreciate all your hard work. So we have good action items and what to do next.
All right. Thank y'all. I'll hop off. Y'all have a good evening.
Great. Thank you, Taylor. Okay. Thank you. Back to the agenda. So we're going to, Montana, you wanted to talk about meetings. So I believe at the last meeting, we agreed that we would keep the second Thursdays of the month at 7:30 as our normal meeting times. That it was very possible and we'll hear about this later, that the educational subcommittee would suggest perhaps we have a second meeting in a couple of the months to do an educational program. We'll hear more about that. But Montana, you sent out a bunch of emails when nobody was paying attention because I think it was between Christmas and New Year's. Can you just clarify what it was that you sent out, what the issue was about doing a third Thursday versus a second Thursday, and anything else on the meetings tied to the invites that you had distributed?
Yeah, so all the meeting invites that you guys got was just me being prepared and sending you guys all the calendar invites for the next 6 months with the Zoom links and everything. The only one that we would need to change the date for is April. I will be flying to London at that time, and Michelle is also going to be away. And I'm also going to be flying back on the 18th during the meeting time. So that's why I reached out to you guys, seeing if you guys would be willing to meet on either April 4th or April 25th. I got some responses. It doesn't sound like you guys are going to be able to get a quorum. So that was like the only date that there's a lot of going back and forth on.
Okay, and so we'll address this at the March meeting. Or you said the March meeting or the April meeting?
April meeting.
So why don't we address this at the March meeting when it gets closer and people's schedules have solidified?
Okay. That was the only meeting with that couldn't work, but otherwise all those other invitations that you guys, just them being on your calendar months in advance. So I'm not doing this like the week before or something.
I, for one, appreciate that. It's also helpful when we put together the agenda to know in advance what the Zoom call is going to be. Are there any questions for Montana on the schedules and the emails that you've received? Okay, thank you for clarifying that. So we have our meeting scheduled and we are sticking to the second Thursday of the month for our meetings at 7:30. And everybody should have an invite that has the link. And in addition, you'll receive the agendas as we've been doing. The agendas will be posted and I'll email those out to everybody in advance once they've been posted. Okay? All right, Montana, we have you next to give an update on the transition, any grants, grant activities, how we're moving forward with file storage and ensuring our institutional memory continues, and any website updates, because I was happy to find out that you have direct access to the website and can make updates for us directly. Is that still true?
Yes. Yeah. So in terms of like Taylor's presentation, I already have her presentation, so I can like upload that tomorrow morning. And then you guys can send the link out to other committee members. It's pretty easy. So starting off with the transition update, Ginny and I have caught up, Tanya and I have caught up about everything that Ginny was doing and how I'll be tackling it. I actually met with Martha this afternoon to restart that relationship of the town liaison and an AEC member, and we'll be having monthly check-ins the week before the AEC meeting, just to make sure everything on my action points is completed before AEC, and if not, her and I can work together to make sure they're completed before the meeting. And she was great. I'm really excited to work with her, and she said hopefully she'll be popping in really soon. But and then in terms of submitted grants, the way I have left it, the way Jenny left it with me is, all I know is you guys submitted the Green Communities Grant for FY24 back in 2023, and that's all that's been submitted since Jenny. I have not submitted anything yet. And then in terms of active grants, so I spoke with Michelle about the Mass EEC grant. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but we are going to end that contract. She connected with Corinne Moss, who is the point of contact for Mass EEC, saying that, asking for an extension, just talking about how we were struggling with the funds and the solar location. And Corinne also said that many other municipalities that were accepted for this grant are having the same issues and we're terminating the contract as well. So we aren't one of a kind, which I hope that brings some relief in a sense. Corinne did provide us with 5 other available funding routes or grants that we can pursue over the next few months, which I have on my screen and I'll happily share with everyone after this meeting. Specifically, the Mass EEC building team is running a program that aims to decarbonize municipal buildings. So that's and creating like roadmaps. So that's something that we could talk about and pursue over the next few months. But I know it's not the best news in the world, but I think moving on to the next like funding opportunity is just going to be the best play, and figuring out like a better building, because it didn't sound like the rec building was going to be like the most valuable. So that's what's going on with Mass EEC. It's over.
Wait, just to confirm, just to clarify. So you're talking about the $20,000 grant.
Yes.
That they had as extra money, and we put in a quick turnaround proposal for Harborview. Harborview decided they did not want a backup battery for the common room, that they'd rather pay for a diesel engine to come at their request when there's an outage. We then tried to put it on the VFW, the Legion Hall, to keep the beer cold during the summer when the electricity goes out. And there was some issue with that. It was too expensive, or
it was in a floodplain zone, so it wasn't like, if something were to happen, the electricity unit could be in danger. So it wasn't like the smartest place to put it.
Okay. And then Michelle was trying to figure out if she could put it on the rec center. And then at this point, it was just decided turn it back.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions regarding Mass EEC from anyone else? Okay.
No, and we have the Green Communities grant funding request for $186,000 submitted.
Yes, that for the Osgood HVAC project.
Yes.
That has been transitioned over to me. So when we are notified if we are accepted or denied, I will let you guys know. Ginny confirmed that. Okay, so the solar credits, great news. They actually, since Palmer Capital has verbally stated that they are interested again in the solar panels. Michelle resent the contract, and KP Law is currently looking over the most updated contract. That was like a few days ago when we all received the email with Scott. So KP Law is actually looking it all over, and they want to pursue it now. So that's definitely going to be moving forward. Not in the next few weeks, but like I promise you it's moving forward, and I've been checking in with Michelle. So that's very exciting. Any questions regarding solar credits and Stop and Shop? Okay.
This is pretty big news given the length of time we've been dealing with this. Is it, no, it correlates very nicely with Montana's arrival.
You know, I wasn't going to say anything, Chris, but remember how we practice patience?
Yeah.
We just practice patience and we wait for the wheels of municipal government to work. And 2 years later, at exactly the time when Scott has reiterated they're interested in apparently whatever National Grid's holdup is, it's now been resolved, which is good news. And I don't know how that happened. Again, this committee makes magic happen, and through patience and persistence. So apparently they can move forward, and that combined with our ongoing pleas and Montana starting has brought us to this point. So we will be happy.
So is this means that we've got the interconnect issues figured out? I mean, that's National Grid's resolved that. Is that?
I think that's stronger than what National Grid would say. According to Palmer Capital, National Grid got back to them and said that whatever the holdup was on looking at an interconnection request, that's now been resolved. So I don't know if their study's over. I don't know if they got approval to upgrade the substation. I don't know what's behind this, but they have told Palmer Capital that they can interconnect. They can put in the request for the interconnection and move forward with the study on what it's going to cost. That doesn't mean they're not going to come back and say, okay, it's $500,000 to interconnect. I'm just setting expectations. It just means Palmer Capital can move forward with putting in the request and getting a price from National Grid about what it would cost to connect. Our hope is that it's not a lot.
Great, thank you. Good job, Montana.
Thank you.
Nice.
Well, I did not do the legwork. You guys did. I'm just pushing buttons and speaking words.
So you just said you were the person
so.
to the final turn of the top of the tight jar. Okay. Now, well,
Yeah.
we'll expect some more miracles from you.
Maybe.
This is a big one. Take the credit, Montana.
Thank you. Yeah. No, I'm really excited for you guys because I know you guys have been pushing for this since like before I started my job at Cohasset. So I'm also excited to see this being pushed through. And then I do have good news in terms of funding opportunities. So I was speaking with Michelle this morning, and Innovis Energy Incorporation reached out to Michelle with an opportunity to purchase a level 3 charging station. And it's actually going to cost less than a charging 2 station. It's about $10K per station. Michelle wants to seriously consider putting at least one on the capital plan for this year. I have a few documents that I can send over to Tanya, but we were talking about that today, and she really wants to push that forward since it basically subject line, it's basically free. And it would be upgraded technology and cheaper compared to a level 2 charger. So
what's the catch?
I haven't had a deeper conversation with Michelle about the catch, but that's just a preliminary conversation that we had today.
Where would she put it? Does she want to put it behind town hall?
Probably just because we're looking to replace one of them anyways, because that's something I was working on when I started. Now it's my job again. It's been a real pain in the butt trying to fix the singular part that's in the machine. So it's looking more like we're going to have to replace it. So that would probably be the smartest move at this time. But again, it's another conversation I have to have with Michelle and seeing if it's smarter to replace the single part or just get a whole new one.
So would this be a public, and do you know which, I have so many questions, but do you know which technology they're going to use? Or, I mean, they're going in different directions, but I think the Tesla one is the one that's becoming the one that they're pretty much going to. Is this the kind of thing they're talking about?
Looking back at the 1 second. It doesn't look like it would be a Tesla one.
It does seem the way the rest of the country is going. They're going to use the Tesla standard
Right. They're not
Yeah,
going to go with a CHM or whatever, some of the other ones. It's the Tesla standards. So before we jump into this,
yeah.
maybe these are some questions we should ask, or
Okay.
maybe not look a gift horse in the mouth. I don't know.
No,
Can
absolutely.
we make an action item? I guess Debbie and Steve, since you two are the ones who have the most experience with our charging stations and charging stations in general, would you be able to draft some questions for Montana to share with Michelle, and they can ask those questions of the offer?
Great.
I guess we could do it. I'm not sure I'm terribly qualified, but I'm sure I can come up with some questions.
Can I ask a quick question? What was, if I missed it, I apologize. What was the price that they were offering it at?
It's 10K, give or take, with some change.
It's a new charging. It's a new level 3 charger.
Yes.
And Barbara, these things usually are like a couple $100,000. So I mean, there's something,
Oh, yeah.
Well,
something,
yeah, I
something
mean,
going on here.
there's a huge power issue, and connection things. So we have to, I mean, these guys, as you say, I think they can cost upwards of 100,000, per charging, station.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch it. Where are we proposing to put this level 2 charger, or level 3 charger?
We haven't talked about specific locations, but it would most likely go behind town hall just because our level 1 charger has been broken for over a year now, and it's been really difficult trying to fix the singular part, rather than just possibly replacing the whole thing. And all of our other chargers are up and running right now, so I think that would be where it would go, but it hasn't been finalized by any means, and there's many more discussions to come.
But these would be questions that would go on the list.
Okay, are we going to have a further discussion about the charging stations further down in the agenda?
We have sharing the data on the charging stations is later on the agenda.
Okay.
That's usually when we talk about what's being charged, how much money is being made, how many unique users there are. Is that the type of information you're wondering about, Steve?
I'll wait.
Okay.
Tanya, I need to sign off at 9:45. So if you want me to talk about that, I do have the dashboard up, so maybe we can pull it up on the agenda.
Okay. I think we should be done in an hour before 9:45, but if we start hitting up against that, Chris, just say something and
Okay.
we'll make sure we get reported on that. All right. Anything else, Montana?
Yeah, just 2 more things. So in relation to school rooftops and solar panels, Michelle did express to me strongly that they are starting the process of redoing all of the school roofs in the next 3 years and would like you guys to start the preliminary research of getting solar panels on the school. She wants Osgood to be first. I know there wasn't a lot of support from what she said, but that's what the town would like to start off doing first. I don't know why, but that's what I've been told. And then in terms of just file storage and ensuring institutional memory, I'm working on creating a OneDrive so all of you can access the data. I just got the thumb drive and I'm reviewing all the information and documents right now. If Tanya or anyone wants to review the information that I'm putting, if everything's okay to be put on there, just let me know what and what not you want on the OneDrive. Otherwise it is completely backed up to the town planning drive. So if anything happens, it's on a hard drive that I can access from anywhere.
Okay, I think Martha's working with you on that, right? As far as understanding where it is and how to do it. And I might have some materials from 2019 on that I can provide to you that haven't been posted on the website, but would be useful just for institutional memory. Usually we try to include our presentations to the select board in our meeting minutes. And we also try to include any other presentations that are made during the meeting in the meeting minutes, but there may be some other materials like the proposals and other things that we've submitted that would be very useful to have as part of that.
Okay. Actually Martha's on, she said, but she can't talk. It won't let me promote her. Oh, Martha, can you? Okay.
There she is.
Hi. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Hi, Martha.
Oh, good. Okay, I'm going to mute now.
Okay.
Your ears must have been burning.
Sorry about that.
But in terms of the website and just correcting people's serving time names, because I know there's some transitionings going on, please just let me know that information and I can make the website updates very quickly. And that's everything on my plate.
Okay. One thing I do want to, because active grants and submitted grants and funding opportunities are in this section, I want to give just a quick update on Debbie and I had a call today with the schools in NLX. The team from NL that we had been working with has completely left NL, and we're now working with corporate, but we're trying to get a point person in the United States. But it was a call today with the schools, with NLX, with the bus providers. The Anderson is providing the bus, and Debbie and myself representing the Alternative Energy Committee. And I guess, Debbie, do you want to give your impressions on how you thought it went and where we are on things?
Well, quickly, I'd rather hear from you, but I was very impressed with the Andersons. The Bluebird bus people. I think that's who they are, right? And our bus is there, and they're just absolutely willing. They've done sounds like many installations of electric buses all over New England. So they're very experienced and they're very eager to help with the paperwork and the training and everything. So we're really lucky. I mean, it sounds really, really amazing to have them. Not so sure about the NLX people, not so sure about them, but I felt like these Anderson guys were really on it. So we're close, aren't we?
We are close, and it was nice. It was nice to know the whole thing hasn't fallen apart, actually. But I knew it hadn't, but you're always worried when suddenly nobody's returning your calls. So with the buses delivered in Boston, it's waiting for us to register it, get insurance, get plates, and have a working charger. The Andersons are not going to deliver the bus until we have the charger working, because that would be silly. The charger is installed but not connected, and Anel is working with National Grid to get it connected, but there is a work order and they are moving. And both the Anderson Bus Company and ourselves said, if you need us to pressure National Grid, we both have connections and we can make some phone calls. So we're letting Anel, who has that ball, run with that ball at this point. The Anderson Bus Company is going to work closely with Ray and Susan to get done what needs to be done. And I would think we're going to be ready to have our bus delivered. I don't want to say next month, but it all right now really depends on National Grid and when they're going to energize the level 3 charger. But everything's there waiting for the interconnection to happen. And then once that plus some paperwork tied to the bus occurs, we're going to have our first ever electric school bus for the town of Cohasset. So it is imminent, subject to National Grid connecting. The other exciting news tied to that, and this is separate, the school committee has been talking about it and they have a strategy. Initially, they're going to train every bus driver on the electric bus, and the Anderson Bus Company will do that. Every bus driver plus the backup bus drivers for Cohasset will be trained on the electric school bus. They're going to use it as the backup bus initially until they figure out how it runs, what mileage it gets, how it works, whether there are any kinks. And once the schools feel that it is safe and ready for prime time to have its own route, it will either get its own route or will continue to remain in a ancillary position to sort of step in when the other buses aren't available or when they need an incremental bus. So the school committee is totally on board. The school Ray is on board. Everybody's thinking about how to do this in a way that does not create a huge hiccup. And once all of this comes to fruition, the town and the school committee have expressed a desire to have a green ribbon cutting ceremony and a green school bus ride. And I think there's even some ideas about, the electric bus will look different than the other buses. And of course, everybody on this call is invited to be part of the inaugural electric school bus ride around town.
Can I say one thing, that I thought was really interesting? The Andersons asked you, Tanya, what the route the length of the route that you had anticipated was like 40 miles a day. And they said there are buses that are going out 2 times a day, 35 miles each time, even in sub-zero weather with no problems. So that was really comforting because it sounds like they have quite a fair amount of experience now with electric buses. So
yeah, but they are charging the bus in between the morning and the afternoon.
yes, yeah.
And what we were trying to do was get it to the point where we did not have to charge between morning and afternoon. And we might be able to do that, but not during the half days. But this is what we're going to test out. But it was interesting because they did ask, what's your route? Have you thought about your route? And I told them that we did a tabletop exercise on that extensively before we signed the paper to get the bus. So we were aware of what the route would be, or what the routes could be, what the mileage could be, and how much we might need to do a charge. And ultimately, that's why we got the level 3 charger, because that was the only way we would have certainty that the bus would be available whenever we needed it. So very, very exciting. Okay, so that's an update on the school bus that happened today, but that is part of our active grant and funding opportunities, and just an update to everybody on where we are, but it is imminent. And we'll have to be thinking about marketing.
Tanya, who has the specs for those buses? I'd be curious to look at the specs for the mechanical.
Yeah, so Ray, who's with the school, he's in charge of the bus fleet. He has been working with them, and I can send you I don't think the specs have changed from what they proposed, so I could send you, if you're interested, the response to the request for proposal that Enel had submitted that had the specs on the bus.
Good, thanks.
What it doesn't have, just so you know, is of course the most interesting information, which is how many miles are you going to get on a charge? And so that's where Ray did a lot of research, talked to the Boston school system, who has 10 electric school buses. We did some research on what tests in Alaska had shown, the school buses in Alaska during the coldest part of the winter. And really it can be a pretty big swing between winter and summer. And of course, it was all coming right up against our 40-mile routes. But the other specs, as far as how many seats, I think it's like 70 seats and size and all of that is in there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so if I could get an action item for me to send that material to Fran, just to make sure I don't forget. Okay, great. 2024 initiatives and champions. I would say let's give ourselves, we've already talked about this a little bit. Let's give ourselves maybe 25 minutes on this. We are scheduled to present to the select board on the 30th of January. This would be our first quarter presentation. Usually in the first quarter, and this is what we anticipate, we have 2 asks of them. The first is we give them a list with a description of all of the initiatives that we want to pursue in 2024. Some of them are continuations from 2023. Some of them are new. Some of them are opportunistic. Most certainly school roofs and solar panels on the school roofs would be one of those. because that will take, I think we have to bring it back to the town to vote to lease those new school roofs once they're replaced, or in anticipation of the new school roofs, because the last vote was 4 years ago, giving us permission to lease, and that may have expired. And the second thing we'll need to do then is put out a request for proposal to get another. Again, I think that the proposals as they were submitted also have expired and are stale. So there's a lot of work that's going to go into the school roofs. But what I want to do now is have a conversation about what our 2024 initiatives would be as part of that. Part of why we're so effective is our initiatives also have champions, where there are people from this committee and town who want to help make things happen. And so there are people behind the initiatives. And in addition to those initiatives, the second ask we're going to have for the select board is an ask tied to the survey to the residents about the climate action plan, and to position that survey in the context of one of our initiatives from last year, which was exploring whether or not we thought we should make a recommendation about the town and whether or not the town should pursue a climate action plan to reduce carbon. So those are the two asks. As far as I remember, there might be something else we want to put on the list for a discussion with the select board, but we've already discussed extensively the survey and have a draft. What I'd like to do now is focus on the 2024 initiatives and identify who the champions are for those initiatives. So we had the beginning of the discussion at our last meeting, so this will continue that discussion and complete it. The agenda has a list of some of the items we raised. We can go through that, or we can have people throw out other things. I guess the first is education. Debbie, you have an update on education and what that subcommittee thought they would propose?
Right. I did a 2-pager, I think, and sent it. So you sent that out to everybody. And I think I had a number of questions about that. Maybe this isn't the time, but I'd like to get feedback if we did want to do it, about sort of what the committee thinks about, having meetings at alternative times, what the subject matter is, how long it should be, just some ways of structuring it. And what I'd really like is a little is a subcommittee to do the education.
So I guess let's do this efficiently, because if we are going to propose this as one of our initiatives for 2024, I'd like to have it fleshed out as much as possible, but we don't have 20 minutes to flesh it out. So I guess, Debbie, can you give we talked about this last time, and there's more detail fleshed out, but what are some of your key questions to this committee that you'd like us to discuss?
Could you quickly just bring that up and screen share it? My proposal. I mean,
yep.
we don't have to go into the mechanics of it, but there was just a couple of questions that I thought we could quickly go through.
Yep, let me try to find what
it was right with the agenda. You had put it with the agenda. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to share right now. I can't share. Montana, can you give me sharing privileges?
Give it a try now.
All right. Oh, maybe I can. No. Well, maybe I can. Hold on.
Still nothing.
I'm not seeing it, but it might just be, I have to click on something first, and I don't know why I'm not.
Montana, do you have it? You might have it. It
Yeah,
was
Montana,
the agenda and everything.
What's the name of the document called?
I don't know, there were 4 documents and it was
the document's called AEC Education Series _ ideas.
it just, I think.
Oh, you know what? I have it up. Let me download it. Maybe that's what I need to do.
Sorry, I don't mean for this to be a pain.
Oh, I got it.
I got it, and I can share.
Okay.
Okay. Does everybody see this?
So Barbara and I met to talk about this, and I know Martha's also interested in this. And I don't, but so maybe we do have our committee all set. I don't know. But anyway, the purpose was basically to deal with the residential side, just to educate people and get things going while we're working on a climate action plan, trying to move that forward. So it's like 2 tracks, right? An education, purely simple education, while the climate action plan, we're working on that. So the idea would be that I think we talked about maybe doing it as part of a Zoom chat where we're the audience. We toss out the ideas. We could invite people to come, or we could actually produce an actual show with 143, or we could start with Zoom and then go to an actual show on 143. And the idea would be basically the important part of it is the education part. The promotion we could put links out and information so that we're getting mileage from it. This is just kind of almost an avenue to get information out about the different topics. And so my idea also is that we use, local contractors and resources. Everyone can get information online, but the fact about getting some local, people who are viewed as experts, I think would be really helpful. And then quickly, some of the ideas that we had, solar with a solar contractor and Energy Sage, heat pumps, Williams Electric, they came to the Eco Fest and they have a big showroom. I was thinking we could maybe even do a quick video we could drop into the show of their showroom and things like that. So, I think we could make it more interesting than just us sitting there as talking heads. Anyway, one of the things, the building code, I'd like to talk about that, and EVs and home charging. I thought would be interesting to have EV owners in Cohasset talk about their experiences, because I think people can, go to dealerships, but to actually, have a panel. These are just things that, Barbara and I talked about, and I'd love feedback on that and whether what people think and whether we should go forward with it. So the logistics that's needed, if you scroll down the bottom, the logistics are setting up a subcommittee that would be actually arranging the speakers, doing the PR marketing, and working with Cohasset 143 TV, because the idea is we're going to drop these segments that we record if we do the Zoom call, then we'll have to, give them to 143 TV. And then we just have to schedule either as part of our meeting or an additional meeting. So those are sort of kind of the basic thinking of this, and feedback, length of time. I mean, I don't think it should probably be longer than really a half hour. But anyway, so I think, I mean, is there any feedback about the concept or? any ideas for anything?
Yeah, Deb,
I
I
love
think
it.
this is, oh, go ahead, Steve.
I love it. I want to be involved.
Terrific, you can be involved.
Deb, how
Chris?
many people do you hope to reach with this?
Well, I'm hoping through one way or the other, a lot of people. I mean, Cohasset 143 has, I don't know what, a lot of people on there. I mean, the Facebook page. So I'm thinking that's just not, it's not just to invite them to this, but to actually put in some facts and figures, maybe with some links and things like that. So, and then afterwards we could have articles written for Anchor and Stroll and things like that. So it's not just kind of just the show.
You might think about how we can use already prepared material on these topics that are probably, like, for example, how does a heat pump work? I imagine there are lots of YouTubes out there. To produce a whole half-hour show is a huge undertaking, and thinking about how you do that efficiently using already existing resources probably would be an opportunity for us.
We can certainly drop in some video, but I was thinking, like Williams Electricity, they came to EcoFest, and I think they're such a local great resource, and I think we could even go and have a little tour of their showroom, because there's tons of designs of heat pumps. They're not just the ones that you think of anymore. You can get little things in the wall. So I'm thinking there it could be a lot of content with these to fill that half hour.
There's a lot of content. There's no question about that. It's producing it all that's the hard part. So
Right.
And there's a
Well,
lot of
you'll
content.
all be
I'm
the
just, I guess
studio
my
audience.
main point is there's a lot of content already produced, and maybe it's sort of curating that content rather than creating content.
Well, I think one of the things that Deb and I talked about, I mean, obviously this is interrelated with survey and the cap, et cetera, right? And so to maximize the audience, Deb's idea was to have some serious content. Yes, it could be repurposed content, but to make it meaningful and relatable to our residents by having us talk about, hey, I had range anxiety before I got my EV, and it turned out that it's not a big deal. I mean, so to personalize it with some local residents, and there's obviously a lot of moving parts here in terms of strategy. How do we maximize our audience? But we thought that if we combined, whatever the material is going to be, Deb is a rock star already. She's already done videos, but whatever content we use, we wanted to integrate local stories about each of these buckets, right? Be it EVs or heat pumps or going.
That's a great idea. I really love that. I mean, you could interview somebody about their Tesla, about their heat pump, and so on, and then wrap that around the more generic content.
Yeah, I mean, I think this sub rows, the thing that we're not saying is how could you ways to go green, So we're advocating somewhat ways to go green, and so all great idea. Any ideas that people have about what's the optimal content, and then how to do wraparounds about personal stories, I think would be
right.
And
local contractors.
Let's be clear, we're not advocating, we're educating.
No, we're not. I said we're not.
Yes.
It sounded like
we're not. Right. I think it's also good to build more material for the library, for people to go, if they have questions about EVs, they can just go straight to the library and find the local contractor and get their questions answered in a more direct way than going to, say, Google and Googling EVs.
Exactly. For example, it's taking solar to have a local solar contractor, and then Energy Sage, which is a Boston-based company, which can help you find a solar contractor here. It's really bringing it to the local level, because all this stuff in a general sense, obviously they can find, how a heat pump works. But to hear Williams Cole, how they will come to your house and evaluate, and they're the local guys, and and what's available in their showroom kind of thing. So I think it's more that kind of thing.
Steve, you have your hands up.
Yeah, I just want to add on to what Chris mentioned. I personally know several people that have made excellent presentations on heat pumps. So that's not what we're after here, but I think we could include some of that material as reference links for people that want more detail and want to get a deeper understanding of these things. So, we have our little testimonials, short little two-minute video things to let people know that there are local people that tried these things and found them fantastic. And then at the bottom, we'll have a link if they want more details. You can have links to the vendors as well as links to these other webinars that people have prepared. And I've seen some excellent ones.
I will say there's a precedent for this, which of course we're going to note, assuming the committee wants to proceed with this as one of our initiatives. We did Microgrid Mondays, and we kept it simple. It was basically an iPhone recording conversations and visits to different microgrids. And if you go to the website for the Alternative Energy Committee, you'll see the Microgrid Mondays video tours. It includes Russ Electric, Amoresco. Doran, I don't even know if you know this, but we visited the Amoresco microgrid. Nanogrids, we talked with Paul Schubert, Steve Girardi, and Dave about their solar projects, batteries at their houses. Those are Cohasset residents. We visited Schneider Electric, and then we talked about the Cohasset DPW and Elm Street microgrid study. So that was something Brianna did. I think it was during COVID. It was part of how we were trying to educate on microgrids. And you can be as simple as just videotaping it with your phone. We could do it as a meeting where we have a presenter and we're the audience, and we record it and post it. I think those will be the easiest. Or you can take it up to a production, half-hour production with Justin, or the video audio group at the high school. I think I feel with Chris, the more complicated it gets, the less likely it is it's going to come to fruition. And I thought our Microgrid Mondays were very easy, but I would defer to the committee on how they want to proceed and how much effort they want to put into it and how they want to produce it. Montana.
I do want to let you guys know Justin's last day was this past Monday, so we no longer have a communications director at this time. We're unsure of who's gonna take a partial of his responsibilities. So in terms of besides posting on the webpage, but just getting information out, it may take a little longer than it used to.
That's good to know. Well, so to the committee, are we comfortable putting this forward as one of our initiatives for 2024? And sorry, Carol.
It's a great idea. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, let me ask the committee, and then I'll ask Carol, who put her hand up.
Oh, sorry, Carol. Did I interrupt Carol?
So, Chris, I think it's a good
education is a great idea. And based on some of the sort of the caveats and considerations we discussed. Keep it simple.
It's educating our committee as well, right? I think that's part of the pitch to the select board. Any other comments from the committee? So it sounds like this is a winner, and this is definitely something that we want to present. I would ask if the committee is able to resolve some of the outstanding questions among yourselves, just so that we can solidify it, so we have a firm proposal of what this looks like, and we can answer those questions if the select board asks for more details. And if we don't want to necessarily commit one way or another, we can just say, here's generally how we would see it going, but we're going to be flexible depending on the topic.
So can I ask one thing? So my sense is people, and I agree, keeping it really simple. And I think, but are you willing to maybe come, like meet sort of on the fourth Thursday or whatever, and have separate meetings and be a studio audience for this on Zoom? Are people
Sure.
willing to do that?
Yeah, I'm willing
You
to
don't
do
need
that
a
if I'm
whole
available.
group, huh?
Yes, if I'm available.
Okay. All right. So a few people are. Okay, Barbara.
I'm in.
Okay. Steve, would you come on on another day?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Well, as long as we have 3 or 4, I mean,
I'm in.
good.
Great.
Good, Martha, too. Okay. And we can have other people too. I mean, we can invite them to attend. So I think so basically that's where we'll start with offering it as sort of a for the select board, a Zoom type structure. But people can screen share videos. So, right, we could screen share a video of somebody's different heat pumps in Williams. So we could make a little video to drop in during the discussion. So, I mean, we can have that kind of flexibility.
For sure. We can do it as a share screen. We just want to make sure we're not violating copyright rules. But since this is common good and for education, I don't think it would be, even if we were replaying something that we found to be compelling from the internet. Okay. All right. So this is one initiative. Thank you for developing that. Another suggestion that we started talking about last time, and again this time, is the school roofs. Does everybody agree that the replacement of the school roofs and making sure that we are examining solar panels, potentially associated batteries, little mini microgrids for reliability and resiliency, that is something we want to take on for 2024?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
And I will say it is probably a 3-year process. So this will be the beginning. And it would probably entail us coming to spring meeting, I would expect next year, to ask for permission to lease the roofs. But to be an advisor to the schools to help understand what the potential grants are, whether there's a green roof program at the state, and even to help with some of the calculations on whether this is something that we want a developer to do or this is something that the town should do, given that on the solar side, nonprofits can now get a credit of 30% under the Inflation Reduction Act, whereas before you had to have a tax paying entity to be able to realize those benefits. Okay, so school roofs and helping to pursue green roofs to make sure that we are looking at solar panels on the roofs, potentially as part of a microgrid for the schools. That is something we want to pursue. Okay, so that's another item we had talked about. Climate Leaders Program, I think we talked about that a lot last time. I just want to confirm we want to pursue further information on whether or not the town can be and what's required to be in the Climate Leaders Program. I throw that out. Any comments on that? That would include understanding the specialized stretch code, which is one of the educational topics, net zero goals, what that would look like why we would want to do that in the context of the fact that the Commonwealth is pursuing net zero, as well as some of our neighbors and other towns in Massachusetts. What a climate action plan would look like. We've already started pursuing that. We have a climate action plan subcommittee that is exploring what that entails, and then fleet electrification. So those are all components of the Climate Leaders Program. We're aware of that program. And I guess, Montana, you had an update on that?
Say that one more time.
The Climate Leaders Program through the Mass CEC?
Yeah, so Lisa Sullivan, I spoke with her. She will be attending our March meeting. And so as of right now, she does not have any further information regarding the application, deadlines, communities. The one thing that she did say in response to your question about is there any like preliminary requirements for communities? And as you guys know, the requirements that put communities ahead of others is opting into the stretch code, and the few other ones that were on the agenda. But since Cohasset doesn't check most of those boxes, unfortunately, we will probably not be looked at for the leading communities. But again, more information is to come. And by the time she presents in March, I'm sure she'll have much more information to give than I am right now.
Okay. Is everybody okay with presenting that as something that we need to understand more, and then within that context talk about some of the other things that we've been working on, like a climate action plan?
Yes.
Okay. And now we're on to other. Are there any other, and we're coming up at the end of the time we allotted for this.
Hold it.
Any other
No.
topics?
I'm supposed to give you an update on a specialized stretch code.
Are there any other? This is our chance to get the approval to do our 2024 initiatives. Are there any other initiatives that we want to pursue, or does this cover what we feel we're going to? Of course, we're going to be flexible if something comes up. Does this cover what we want to pursue for 2024?
Tanya, I'm supposed to give an update on the specialized stretch code. You gonna let me do that?
Yes.
Okay. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, but can
Montana,
we first, but is this helping us finalize the list for the 2024 initiatives?
Oh, what was my action item to do that tonight?
No, I know. And you're going to be able to do that, but I want to close out the initiatives because I have to put together a presentation for the select board. And then we'll get an update on the specialized stretch code from you.
Oh,
Tanya,
okay.
where is the survey in here? Where is the survey contained?
So that's not in that's not in the initiative. That's just part of what we're going to present to them based on our prior meeting.
Okay.
But it would be in the context of understanding more about the climate action plan and making a recommendation, which was an initiative started last year. So when we talk about what we did in 2023, what we need to close out, it would be raised within the context of that.
Okay, thanks.
Tanya, can I say one thing? When you make the proposal to the select board about the survey, and we talked about the first, getting the stuff done in the first quarter, we're getting such a late start. I don't think we can say, I don't know if you're even going to get into that, but I don't know if we'll be able to do all that by the first quarter. Huh?
Oh, I'll just say first half.
Perfect.
That's fine.
Perfect.
All right. Okay. Steve, is this related to 2024 initiatives?
Well, yes, we had this long discussion on several occasions about whether we should pursue asking the town to authorize a specialized stretch code. So the question became, well, what's really the difference between the specialized code and the enhanced stretch code? And that was my assignment this time, was to explain the difference.
Yes.
Okay, can I go ahead and do that?
I think you guys are having a failure to communicate. They're two different things, your update and finalizing the list. And we're trying to finalize the list first, and then we're going to go to your update.
However, do we want to ask the tie-in might be, do we want to ask, pursue doing that in order to qualify for the climate
Well,
lead?
that was the whole question. We had decided some time ago, middle of last year, that we weren't going to pursue the specialized code because there wasn't a lot of difference. But now, because of the Climate Leaders Program, if we want to go for that, we have to authorize the specialized code. So then we wanted to revisit the difference between the specialized code and the stretch code to see whether, how big a lift would it be to ask the town to authorize to adopt the specialized code. So
That's right, and that's content. That's content that we're going to address next. But I want to make sure we have the list of what our 2024 initiatives are.
But what I'm saying is that may be one of our initiatives.
And it is listed there under the Climate Leaders Program in the agenda.
Okay. All right.
It's on there.
That. Okay.
It's like a sub project under the Climate Leaders Program. If we adopt the Climate Leaders Program as one of our objectives, then we'll be obligated to pursue getting the town to adopt a specialized stretch code.
I put those key things that we've been working on under the Climate Leaders Program because there's potentially $1 million associated with it. Although right now it's only 15 to 20,000. But coming straight off of having $800,000 under the Green Communities Program, potentially with this last proposal that we've submitted, $1 million that's come through being a Green Communities member. By putting these components underneath the Climate Leaders Program, I think it's going to be sold as a package, right? We don't have to go one by one and ask them to approve it. It's just sort of like, yes, if you approve, yes, you should explore more about the Climate Leaders Program. That entails understanding more about the following, right? The stretch code, the net zero goals, climate action plan, and what's the last thing? And the fleet electrification. Yeah. So all the requirements of the Climate Leaders Program touch upon initiatives that we've already been pursuing. And this sort of packages them up and puts it under last time we got $1 million. They haven't said there's $1 million per town in this program, but if there is money that becomes available, this is the avenue they're going to use to distribute it. So it makes sense that we should think of, I can't imagine they're going to say no, right? Whereas if we say we want to pursue net zero goals, we want to pursue a climate action plan, there may be some political reasons why people on the panel, on the select board say no. But if it's part of a Climate Leaders Program where these are some of the requirements and we want to continue to pursue these, and close up some of the initiatives that, not close them up, but take the initiatives that we started at the last year to the next stage. That's part of our 2024 initiatives. So does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I just want to make sure that we actually do talk the select board into letting us pursue the Climate Leaders Program.
We're working on that. Yes, that would be one of our initiatives for 2024. Is there anything else that I'm missing, or does that pretty much hit the highlights?
Well, that would be a huge thing if we could do that. I mean, we're talking about that's the most ambitious efforts we've ever had, I think, except maybe trying to put solar panels and everything in town. Other than that, this is really big.
Or a community aggregation program. So well, look, we've taken on big things before. I'm not afraid of this.
This is bigger.
Okay. So if we feel like there's nothing missing, if any of you have something that is your pet project that's not on this list, speak now, or we're not going to revisit it for 6 months because we're going to be busy.
Great list.
Okay. So we've got our list. We've got our asks. We know how we're going to present it. I'll put together the slide presentation, and we are on the agenda for the 30th of January. And we also have a date for the second quarter presentation in April. Because what I've discovered is if we just wait, we don't get on the agenda. So we're asking for advanced scheduling for our presentations, our quarterly presentations. Okay, so now Steve, and I'm cognizant of the time. Steve, how long do you think this is going to take? Just
5 minutes.
Okay, perfect. Give us a 5-minute update on, if you could, please, the stretch code of the key differences.
Montana, can I share my screen? Hey, okay, I'm there, right?
Yep.
What's the problem here? Why can't I? Here we go. Okay. What I'm going to show you is a summary document prepared by Carbon Zero MA, a nonprofit organization, and 350 Mass. And this directly compares the specialized stretch code to the enhanced normal stretch code. So the requirements vary in 2 dimensions: by the size of the house, whether it's more or less than 4,000 square feet, and whether it's a multi-family house, and whether it's all electric versus a mixed fuel type of house. Now, if first of all, the specialized stretch code has no additional requirements for additions, alterations, or innovations. So if you adopt the specialized code, as far as additions, renovations are concerned, there's nothing additional. It'll be the same as the stretch code. And by the way, a renovation is anything, if you double the size of your house, that's considered new construction. But anything less than doubling the square footage is not new construction. Also, if you're going for an all-electric new construction, then there's no difference between the stretch code and the specialized code. So it all boils down to what the only differences come into if you're going to have a mixed fuel construction. And the difference is that the specialized code requires pre-wiring for future application, future appliance, and HVAC, electrification, which is very low cost at the time of construction, but much more expensive if you have to retrofit. So the specialized code requires that. Also, if you're going to have a mixed fuel, you need to have a minimum amount of solar, with some exceptions if your house is shaded. But generally, you need a minimum amount of solar is required. And if you're building a large home over 4,000 square feet, then you have to install enough solar or other renewables to offset all the home's energy use. So that's basically the difference. I also have this in tabular form here. So see here on the left-hand column is the size of the buildings: less than 4,000 square feet, more than 4,000 square feet, and multifamily. And then the fuel type, whether it's all electric or mixed fuels. So you'll see that with all electric or mixed fuels, the stretch code says you need a HERS rating of 45 or a passive house pathway. If it's mixed fuel, it's a HERS rating of 42 or passive house pathway. And the specialized opt-in code is exactly the same. By the way, HERS, the HERS rating, stands for House Energy Rating System Index, an index. And the lower the index, the more buttoned up the house has to be. So, but if you have mixed fuel, you need pre-wiring and also some solar if your house can take it. If you have a very large house, if it's all electric, again, there's no difference between the specialized code and the normal stretch code. A large house, The specialized opt-in code requires HERS 0, which is net zero construction, as well as pre-wiring, but no additional solar since HERS 0 requires solar. And multifamily houses require a passive house passway, which is the best you can possibly do as far as weatherization and so forth, and minimizing the amount of energy use. So that's basically the difference. Think of it this way: if you're going to put in a gas furnace, gas boiler, then you have to have rewiring for eventual retrofit with heat pumps. And for the smaller homes, you need solar. So, any questions about this? I think it's really a pretty easy lift to go from the stretch code to the specialized code. It's the same energy rating for the house, and it's just a question of whether you put in pre-wiring and or perhaps also some solar. And actually, if you're going to do that, I don't know why anybody wouldn't want to go all electric if you're going to put the wiring in anyways, and you'd save a lot of money in the long run.
I think people are going to be really focused on the incremental cost here. I think you're right, Steve. This would be a pretty monumental accomplishment.
So anyways, this document here, which I sent it to all you guys by email, makes the case for why the specialized energy code is a good deal for homeowners. The state is yes.
The stretch code is already in place. That's correct, right?
The stretch code is already, anytime that every green community is required to obey the stretch code, and there's 300 green communities in Massachusetts, and those 300 communities cover 95% of the total population of Massachusetts. And they're required to, so almost everyone in Massachusetts is required to obey the stretch code. Now, there's more than one version of the stretch code. That's what's a little bit confusing. The stretch code is being beefed up. So come July, I think it's July 1st, there'll be a more rigorous stretch code that we'll have to follow. And that's where these HERS ratings come in. The HERS of 45 for an all-electric, or HERS 42 for a mixed fuel. That's a more stringent stretch code than is in force at the moment. So the state decided not to impose the stretch code in one go. They're putting it in two goes. The first, pass was last spring. The first, or when did it go into effect? The first modified, improved stretch code. But now they're going to boost it up another notch come July. And so that was the question. Since the HERS rating in July is going to be the same for both the stretch code and the specialized code, it didn't seem like there was much difference. But the difference is that if you're going to put in a gas furnace, you have to have pre-wiring required for possible conversion to heat pumps in the future, plus solar. So
this is great, Steve. This is very straightforward, and it definitely is a change from last year when it was a much heavier lift. So this is dynamic, and I thank you for keeping up to date on this. And I think that this is something that we definitely, as part of our educational program, can help people to understand. And definitely as part of our initiative for 2024 on making a recommendation about the Climate Leaders Program and everything that entails. Thank you. Fabulous. Well done. Okay. I'm cognizant of the fact that one of our data presenters has a deadline and we should all be done in 15 minutes anyway. Quick update on the Springtown meeting. There are zoning bylaw changes being presented by Tom Callahan. And remind me, is somebody the point person on the zoning bylaws at this point? Okay, so I think I distributed the email from Tom Callahan. He's interested in coming in to present what the changes are. This is significant and it ties into the zoning bylaws related to alternative energy. And so I think we definitely need to be involved and we definitely need to review it. And we definitely want to make sure that if there's a big issue that we have, we're very vocal about it as we were before, but very vocal about it up front. So I just want to give you a heads up on that. I think we're going to have Mass CEC come and talk to us, I think in March. So maybe in February, we'll have Tom come and present. In the meantime, if everybody could please review the proposed changes, that really takes away a lot of the limitations for wind and solar on the residential properties. Yep.
What you sent was just wind.
Okay. So I think,
so also that issue that we talked about, solar, not solar, the chargers being, so there's a bunch of issues that weren't in theirs. This was just
yes, that's because the charger issue that we talked about at town meeting, that was passed. That's not on the table anymore.
Well, I think he said in this more specific bylaw that we could, address it, because I definitely can't be the way it is. It can't.
Well, what he said was it could be changed easily in the future, but you think he said we could actually change?
We don't have time to talk about the content of this right now.
Sorry,
but if there are people who do want to focus on this, we would be happy to make that an action item. I mean, I think we should have a lead on this, and I'm happy to be involved. But let's have him come and present to us, and just know this is going to happen fast, and he'd prefer not to have us. And I mean, he wants us involved. He sent it to us, but he doesn't want it to be a big deal, even if it should be a big deal. I think it's a big deal. So I think we definitely need to be involved. But we'll invite him to our next meeting to present.
Are we going to review the proposal before he talks to us?
We should. I
think we should. So we have questions for him, prepared.
Yes, I highly recommend that. Okay, and then the other thing is, just put this in your hat. We need to be always thinking about whether or not there are any AEC sponsored warrant articles for the upcoming town meetings. I don't think there's anything for the Springtown meeting, but as we develop recommendations on the Climate Leaders Program, we should think and plot out which of those items need to go to town meeting. And as we develop the school roof program, we should be thinking out what's the schedule of bringing these things to town meeting. For example, getting approval to lease the school roofs. So just know there's a Springtown meeting coming up, and that's when the major issues are addressed. My understanding is right now there are lots and lots of warrant articles. In fact, so many warrant articles that the select board isn't even clear that they want to address the zoning bylaws at the Springtown meeting, but Tom definitely wants to. So I don't think we have anything to sponsor for warrant articles at the Springtown meeting, but if we do, we need to get on it immediately. So just think about whether or not there's anything. I think we should be focused on fall and next spring, because I think we'll have a lot of things to bring to the town next spring, 2025.
I agree, as long as we don't have a deadline looming to get into the Climate Leaders Program. That's the only concern I have. And Montana didn't have any update on the deadlines for that, so
we're not aware of a deadline. Okay, so now we've got even fewer minutes, but let's get a quick data report on the solar energy array. A couple of things. One, $422,000 saved to date. I did ask Palmer about the reduction in output, and they said that some of that is the inverter and some of that is the weather. There's just been cloudier days, more cloudy days, more rainy days last year, and that resulted in the reduction. And he gave me the page from the contract, which I cross-checked. They are not below their warranted amount. So there's more detail, and I will distribute the explanation, but he's also doing a little bit more research because he wasn't quite convinced that the explanation was complete, but he did address our questions and explain why the total output of our solar energy array last year was so much less than the prior years. Okay, charging stations. Chris, what do you have for us? You're on mute.
You're muted, Chris.
Thank you very much. Can you remind me when we started charging for usage?
September.
September, okay. All right, so we are, let me get the dashboard back up here. Now we have seen a fall in unique drivers since September, but interestingly, the run rate is about the same for November and December, and the run rate is just earning a little higher for January, but the number of sessions is way down again. You had a downtick in October, November, December. It's now the run rate in January is down even further, and the energy conveyed into vehicles is downtick significantly as well since December. So I think people are catching on to it's no longer a free resource. There was, in fact, elasticity of demand. When you give a good away for free, a lot of people want it. When you charge it, well, fewer people do.
Could you share your screen? Is that possible? And then also, did you adjust for the fact that our January has only had 10 days so far?
Yeah, that's right. I did a run rate. Yeah, share screen. Let's see. Hold on a second. Yeah.
God bless you, Debbie.
Let me get this up. Share screen. There we go. Do you see it now?
No, you have to click there we go.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
Yay.
so you see January is way low, but if you do it up on a per day basis, it's a little higher than December. You can see here January is 94, nearly not quite halfway through, and it's way less than the run rate of December of 280. And down here, the energy commit you can see is 1.24 megawatt hours through the 11th, and almost 4 for December. So you can see the run rate there is down as well.
By the way, I'll just tell you guys that I charged today at the library. One of the charging spots was taken up by some kind of construction the library is doing, and 2 of them had non-EVs parked in there. So I put my note on their windshields, requesting very politely that they not park there in the future.
Excellent. I think that should be some of the questions about the level 3 charger as well, which is the town required to limit the spots in front to EV charging?
Well,
by law,
we're supposed to limit the spots in front of all the chargers, level 2, as well as the level 3 when we get one.
All right, I'm going to stop sharing.
Well, that's interesting. So, Chris, your conclusion is that charging a price for electricity has resulted in a downtick, and it seemed to level off, but now January could experience another drop.
That's what it looks after 11 days.
Yep. Well, it'll be interesting to see what comes up next month.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, this is what we suspected. We just didn't know the degree, right? The you know, a free good is it's valuable like that is too good to pass up for many. Steve, probably you probably knew the system and enjoyed it.
Well, I think the price is still a bargain compared to even our aggregation rate when you consider the transmission costs. Anyway, and
remind us how much it is per.
Well, was it 22 cents a kilowatt hour?
It's 22 cents a kilowatt hour. And right now the energy price alone in our community aggregation is, I think, 17 cents.
Yeah, 17 cents, a little bit more than that. And the transmission costs are about double that, I think, don't they? So it's still cheaper than what people pay for at home.
All right. Win-win. Okay. Thank you, Chris, for your report. That's excellent. Any matters not known in advance? All right. Anything we want to make sure we put on the agenda for next month?
Yeah, the zoning bylaw discussion.
Excellent. We'll make sure that's on, and we'll invite Tom to come and present what the changes are that he has for section.
Well, I don't know. I thought we're going to try to talk about it before he comes and presents.
We're going to review it before he comes and presents, and then we're going to have some tough questions for him when he presents.
Oh, you don't mean review it in a meeting, but just okay, because I got some tough questions.
Good. And remember, section 19 is wind, and he's putting in a new section 20, which will be solar.
Yes. Right.
All right. So I'll redistribute that to everybody if that can be an action item for me. Just to make sure everybody has that information forwarded from Tom Callahan. We'll review it. We agree to review it in advance so we're prepared when he comes and presents, so we can ask tough questions and have facts at hand to be able to make suggestions, not just tear it down, but if there's something we want to tear down, have suggestions on what he can do instead to make it effective. Okay? Great. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time and your passion. And we will have a very fun and effective year in front of us, 2024.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Okay, good night. Bye.